All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Peter Duffy on the show. And Peter is the founder and CEO of Dealer Image Pro. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet, man. So, a little bit about Peter. Again, he's the founder and CEO of Dealer Image Pro, based out of Sacramento, California. Dealer Image Pro, they offer a proprietary in-house photo, video, 360, and window sticker iOS-based software solution for the
Yep.
auto dealer inventory. Peter is a father of two, husband to Karen Cortes Duffy. He's a professional photographer and a farmer of wine grapes and
I
apples
am.
at their ranch in Northern California. So I'm excited to dig in, Peter. Before we do though, what's one interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
Thanks for the opportunity, Patrick. So
You bet, man.
I used to be a mortician. I
A mortician.
went right out of high school. I went to mortuary science school, and I did that for about 14 years, and it was a real pleasure. I was really born for that position back in that day, and yeah, I took it really seriously, and I really loved the science of it, and helping people and helping families through those kind of times, and it's really treated me well and served me well over the years because there's a great attention to detail in the death industry. Everything has to really be
Mm,
perfect to make sure that families are comfortable with
right.
how you're serving them and so forth. And then just the ability to speak with people in a way that uses a great deal of euphemisms and things like that, and getting people to do what you need them to do to move the ball forward in any situation. So, yeah, the mortuary industry has treated me really well in my experience as a professional and in life overall. So, yeah.
Oh, fantastic, man. Sounds like that was just an amazing experience for you.
It was an amazing experience. Yeah. I was able to go to Japan for a year and work in a Japanese mortuary. Super neat experience. Yeah, it just it was really great, and I still have a lot of great friends and great professional friends that are own funeral homes and
Yeah,
work in funeral
yeah.
homes, and yeah, it really had a pivotal. There's a pivotal moment when I was about 17 when I decided to do that. I grew up quite poor, actually, so
Hmm.
we're talking food stamp poor,
Wow. Yeah.
really um, something else, and in northern Maine, and there I was. Had to go to a foster home for a couple of years earlier in my later in my childhood,
Hmm.
and I had this wonderful woman who kind of took me in at that time, and when I decided to be a mortician, or when I decided that this is a career path I wanted to take, I was able to kind of interview the local mortician. His name was Steve Dorsey, and
Yeah.
and he was this really good looking, like James Bond style guy, right? Like he
Yeah.
drove the Cadillac in the little town, and good looking. He looked like Sean Connery, very young,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and and I remember going in there and or calling him up and asking him. This is before smartphones, right? You used a real phone, and calling him up and just asking him like, "Hey, can I come in and ask you a few questions about the industry that you're in and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
forth?" And
Helped you out.
and he welcomed me into his place, and he said, and he sat down, and I just looked at him and I just said, "I want to be this guy, and I never want to be poor ever again, and I just
Mm,
want to do this thing." And so the mortuary science world really treated me well over the years, and then
nice.
yeah, segued later into photography, and then of course Dealer Image Pro, and
Yeah.
create invented some software for auto dealers for merchandising, and yeah, just kind of took off from there. But yeah,
So
it's
yeah. So
been
tell
it's
us
been a
more about Dealer
great
Image
run.
Pro. What do you guys offer? What do you guys do?
So if you had Patrick's Toyota, for example, and
Yeah.
you had sold 100 cars a month,
Yeah.
you need photos and videos and 360s if that's what you choose, window stickers, things like that merchandise that vehicle. You need 100 of them every month, and so you need a way to be able to get those online quickly because that's where people shop, of course. And so you're holding on to this vehicle that's a depreciating asset, and there's holding costs involved there. So every moment you don't have this vehicle online, it's essentially costing you money. And so it's a real race and a real essential part of taking a vehicle from wholesale to
Mm-hmm.
retail.
Mm-hmm.
And when you scale that up, for the same example, your 100 cars, or better yet, if you had Patrick's Auto Group and you had several franchise auto dealers under that same umbrella, when you begin to understand the time to market with that, meaning the moment you take the car in from trade or a lease
Mm-hmm.
return or an
Mm-hmm.
auction or whatever, to the point that it's merchandised with photos online and descriptions and all of those type of things. When you scale that up, it equals, in some cases hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions, when you're talking about a
Wow.
large auto group. And so
Right. Right.
being able to have a software that teaches or instructs the individual to photograph cars well,
Mm.
and put them in a way that makes your customers make an informed buying decision, for example, 7 days a week. That's really advantageous to you, because the other way to get this done would be to have a photo vendor come by and take
Right.
snapshots, right, and put
Right.
them online for you. And so, when you're talking about photo vendor, which is what we used to be. So I started with one dealer because I was a photographer, and then I went out and took a bunch of great pictures or whatever, and got one dealership, two dealerships, etc., and built that company to, I don't know, about 35, 40 dealers in Southern California and Oregon.
Right.
And I just thought this has to be an easier way to get people to be able to do this themselves and
Right.
scale.
Right.
And
Right.
so, I went to work with the developer and developed and patented the wireframe guideline system, basically where you have a wireframe of a vehicle in certain compositions, and then train that individual to use the software to photograph those cars in a
Mm.
consistent manner. And so that was really great. I mean, the first app we had, I like accidentally sold 8 like that. Like, and
Right.
I just said, okay, this is the
Okay. There's
direction that I
something here.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been a wonderful journey so far.
Awesome. I know in our pre-talk you were talking about there was three things that were really critical that you've been able to implement in your business for you. One was people, exposure, and process. Take us through what that means for you.
With people, I mean, it's no secret, right, for many CEOs or leaders out there, that the culture of the company has to be really good, and especially with us, who are mainly a remote company, even though we have a great
Which
office
is
in
another
Sacramento.
challenge. Yeah, totally.
Several people. We managed it pretty well. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
imagine, the example I gave you earlier in Southern California, where we have photographers spread out all over. I didn't ever, I met them all, of course, but I didn't see them on a daily basis. It was really just like setting expectations, measuring, and then giving feedback, right? So just that feedback loop that most, or I hope most leaders would be familiar with. And so being remote wasn't, we've always kind of been remote before
mm,
pandemics and things like
hmm,
that. So it was just kind of a natural transition for us to have somebody sitting at a computer in Texas, setting expectations with them, and making sure that they're treating our customers well, and all of that. We've also embarked on a journey of self education. I've always been a big self education. I got a big library, of course, but um, being able to educate the leadership team in a way that empowers them to be
mm,
great leaders, right? A great
right,
leader would be someone that makes the people's jobs underneath of them easier, right?
right,
And
right.
so being able to lead them in the right direction, giving them that feedback loop, and then continuing on with them, and setting expectations. And of course, if they don't, then after a certain period of time, you kind of escort those people out, because you're not doing yourself any favors and you're not doing them any favors, right?
Right,
We
right.
need to be able to be competitive. So people is a big thing. Because we went this unconventional way of creating a business. You know, Business for me is selling newspapers. I described to you earlier, grew up with lesser means, of course, and picking all the cans in the town and then cashing them all in, buying candy and selling it at the pool. So I've kind of always had this entrepreneurial spirit about me, mostly out of necessity. But being able to do that, and then I never really created a business plan and said, okay, this is what we're doing, and then got investors in here.
Right, right.
And I think that's kind of the main way people do things now, right? You go get a seed round and this sort of thing. And
Sure, sure.
we're a multi-million-dollar tech company now, and we have zero investors and zero debt,
Wow,
and
fantastic.
I'm really proud of that.
Bootstrapped it, yeah.
And so the definition of American bootstrapping, we are that American success story. There is no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
very cool.
But that you have things that you don't know what you don't know. And so being able to expect something from someone and then getting that is one thing, but being able to create a process for scalability of people is a whole nother thing. And so this past year, like I said, it's kind of a combination of embarking on a path of self-improvement and self-education with our leadership team, and then creating processes within each department is key to scaling people. And then, being able to remain profitable and pull all the levers and things that you need to do in between is kind of the magic that happens behind the curtain, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I know you talked about the culture of the company. How did you create the culture that you wanted to have, the intentional creation of that culture?
I think just by default that the feedback loop I was talking about earlier, right? Set expectations, being able to measure it, being able to provide feedback. But also, I mean, it's not rocket science, right? Just the golden rule. Treat
Yeah.
people like you want to be treated overall. And that might be lost, I think, with CEOs or leaders or C-suites or C-suite individuals, where they are so fixated on data and making sure they're making right decisions on data. But when it really comes down to it, there's an individual at some point, whether that's at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom, that worries about taking their children to school, that worries
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
having time off for whatever that might be, mental challenges, physical challenges, just individual challenges within their families, and keeping that in mind at all times. I don't think there's ever a time where an employee would give me some sort of request that seemed reasonable, where I've never said, no, we need you here working today. It's always been, you take care of yourself. And then when you come back to us, just make sure you're fresh and we trust you. And so being able to trust them in that way allows them to trust you. And then you have this nice little synchronicity of culture that kind of begins to happen. And I would be lying to you if I told you I knew all this. I just
Yeah.
don't, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really, I've done it by the feels and been able to perpetuate that culture over time. Another thing is meritocracy. The best idea wins. I'm not that smart. I just have motivation, right? So it's about showing my vision to the team, and then being able to bring an idea to them, and then opening up the floor for better ideas, because there are people on my team actually
Oh yeah.
that are much smarter than me, and I allow them the space to be able to do that. And so meritocracy is a big deal.
Yeah, I love that. So you actually, it sounds like the processes in 2023, you that was your main focus, is putting processes in place.
Yeah,
Is that right?
and we really did it, it's been really great. Another big thing that happened in 2023 was being able to find out what it is that we're doing for our customers and try to automate that. And by process, I just simply mean by attempting to automate that to reduce the amount of time that it takes to deliver product, a task, anything like that. And so in 2024, our main focus is on the customer and our customers' customers. So obviously we're working with auto dealers, so they have car buyers to answer to. And so the formula for this year, now that we have some process down and we know what we're doing, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine actually,
Nice.
Dealer Image Pro is. But being able to say, hey, dealer, with our software, this is what you do in 3 steps. This is what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing in the background for
Right.
you.
Right.
And this is the result that your customers are going to experience. So if we
Gotcha.
can just kind of close that loop together,
Yeah.
and we are,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we can really have a good place to be for 2024. And
Yeah.
we have pretty big revenue goals that we want to hit. And I mean, we grew by 51% last year. So,
Wow.
and that was all
Fantastic.
just by us like doing
What's
what
your what's your revenue
we
goal
want
for
to do.
2024?
I'd rather not say because I know this is going to
Okay.
be pretty public. Have some competitors, but
Okay. Yeah.
it's close to doubling
Close to doubling
actually,
again. Good. That's awesome.
because now we have the system to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, it
So
sounds like you
pretty
recognize
amazing.
that you weren't as efficient as you could be, and anytime you scale inefficiency, you're asking for trouble. So you went back and you said, okay, what can I do to automate, maybe outsource, I don't know, but increase the efficiency of the operation such that now you have this well-oiled machine, you can scale the heck out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, full
Awesome.
disclosure,
Yeah.
February of last year, we were all
Yeah.
running around chasing our tails. It was insane.
Wow.
Like, because we there's a point, and I've learned this over the course of the last year. There are break points that happen within any company, especially one that you start on your own, right? So
Right.
from 0 to 1 million, you and your buddies can make $1 million. It's not that
Sure.
hard actually,
Yeah.
if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah.
When you get to 1 to 3, now
Yeah.
you're really starting to get into the nitty gritty, and you
Right.
got to have
Right.
some sort of cohesion, some sort of oil in the
Yeah.
machine to
Yeah.
make sure that
Totally.
everyone's doing it. But when you start to get really past that, that's kind of like a break point 3, like 3 to 8 million.
Right.
You better start to have real good processes within there, because if you don't, you can stagnate, quickly be overtaken by
Sure.
a competitor that's better, that does have process.
Hmm.
And once you build that from 3 to 8, that kind of breakpoint 3,
Mm.
and I didn't invent these, by the way, the company that we use for our consulting kind of educates us on this.
Yeah.
But then once you get past that, now you're getting the 8 to 12 to 15 range. You can like really start to sing, and there's new challenges that come up during that I don't know about yet, but I'm going to learn about them because I want to continue to grow the company. Because if we're not growing, then we're dying, in my
Gotcha.
opinion. So you
Yeah.
got to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it. And I know you mentioned the biggest, kind of the learning mistake or learning opportunity you had as a CEO in the early days is that you have to do it all yourself. You kind of used to believe that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is. It goes back to funeral home days, right? So you have a pretty busy funeral home. You got 4 or
Yeah.
5 people that are there, and you really have to be resourceful and take it
Hmm.
upon yourself to do these things. And you got an owner that's really OCD about things, and they should be, because you're working with such a tender moment within. Stress levels high, right? Like expectations are high, and so being able to get my hands in that all the time, I've had to be able to release myself from that,
Mm.
and I've been really the kind of vision of Dealer Image Pro, the look and feel of Dealer Image Pro. Like if you look at
Mm.
our website
Hmm.
and our branding and what we do overall, that's a great deal. I have no trouble saying it at all. That a great deal of me, and being able to teach someone for 2 weeks how to do something is way faster. Those
Mm.
2 weeks are the investment that you're doing to be able to allow someone else to do that job from now on. And now I can focus on uh, what I can do to make the most impact on the
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
right?
Higher
And it
value
starts to
activities
like,
for you. Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, hey, Peter, if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book that you would require he or she read before taking over for you?
Oh, um, there's all the great ones, right? Good to Great,
Sure.
all the ones that you probably know. But Million Dollar Habits is such a great book. I,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
say that that was a pretty pivotal book for me, and I've read it several times. And then I'm sure every CEO says this, or at least they should. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh
Every
yeah, it's a
single one of
classic.
my leadership team knows that they need to read that, because if you can't,
Mm.
um, I don't want to say coerce, because that might sound like you're trying to,
No,
get someone to do something they
yeah,
don't want to do. But you need to be able to ask people to do something, and
yeah,
also help them understand that it might be a better idea for them, all the while still being open to their ideas as
absolutely,
well, right? So there's a
absolutely, yeah,
balance there.
yeah.
But How to Win Friends and
Inspire
Influence
and
People,
influence.
I think
Yeah,
I've read it
absolutely.
like 5 times. It's
Yeah,
always around. I open it
yeah,
up
and
all the
every
time.
time you read it, there's a new nugget or two or three that you get out of it. You're like,
Of
oh,
course. Well,
wow.
you can't remember the whole book, right? So
No,
you're just
man,
trying to remember
that's a
one little
deep
piece
book.
and get something
Yeah.
from it. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that resonates with me is that there's nothing sweeter than the sound of a person's name, their own name, right? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
love that book. Um, well, let me take a few minutes and just summarize some of my key takeaways from our time together today, Peter. One is setting the culture in your company. It's not rocket science. There's, simple cultural things you can do, setting expectations, measuring, and then giving feedback. That's culture building in and of itself. But in addition to that, it's just the golden rule, treating others how you
Yes.
want to be treated.
Be good to
Uh,
each other.
be good to each other. And, the other biggest takeaway I think is you have to really do a little bit of a self-assessment on your company. You said like February last year, you guys were running all around like chickens with your head cut off
Floundering.
type thing, right? Floundering.
Yeah.
And so you said, I can't scale this. So you guys went back, broke everything apart, rebuilt, automated, put processes in place, and now you have a very well-oiled machine that's extremely scalable. And now you're focusing on the customer deliverables, customer experience, and the customer's experience, which is going to end up, really bringing in more clients and retaining clients.
Definitely.
The last idea that my takeaway was really, open the floor. You bring ideas as a CEO, but let the team really take it, hash it, throw it around, bend it, break it, build on it, whatever. And there's a saying that I love is that people support what they help create, and it sounds like you're living it there. Um,
It's got to happen fast though too, Patrick.
yeah,
Like, I'm, and I wouldn't say I'm an impatient person. I try to listen to people and then be as patient as I can. But at some point, even the best idea, even you don't know if it's actually correct, right?
right.
But act on it, because at least you'll know when to turn and go, nope, that wasn't a good idea, and then and go to something else, right? Because if you just get stuck there and no one's doing anything on that particular problem, um, you're gonna you don't freeze, right?
Yeah.
Just keep going up
Yeah.
the
Keep going.
mountain, and if
Yeah.
we have to go back down the mountain to go another route, that's fine. But at least we know, right? So
Yeah.
it's a good way to handle things. Take
I love
action
that. Yeah.
fast. You know.
Absolutely. If there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from our time together today, what would that be?
I think because you brought it up again is people.
Mm,
It One of the best things that I think that you could do, and it probably takes you at first, and if you have hundreds of employees, I think it's going to be very difficult, but
yeah.
is going over their personal, professional, and financial goals and aligning them with the
Mm,
company, right?
wow.
Because it's one thing to go, hey, we want to make 20 million this year. Well, what does 20 million mean to
To
the
them.
mother of 2 children
Yeah.
that make
Exactly.
70 grand a year?
Yeah.
Because they just see that number and they just think that this business just wants to make more money. But what does it mean to them? Does it mean profit sharing? Does it mean that they're going to get a raise if they do well? Maybe their professional goals are something outside of what their role is at the company. And
Yeah.
so maybe you're squandering them, having them do a menial job when really they're probably really good at something else. And
Yeah.
then again, aligning yourself with their personal goals. What are their financial goals? Are they in
Right.
debt?
Right.
And there's a lot of debt, right?
And
And
most
and
CEOs have no idea about their
how
people's.
do you help them get out? And
Yeah.
if you can create that path, and
Mm,
you said, if I said to you, and we were working together, Patrick, I'm
yeah.
10 grand in debt. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money for a
A lot of money.
$70,000 job
Yeah.
with another individual as
Absolutely.
well. And so if you can say, okay, cool, what are your, I mean, I've gotten down to, what are your bills? And like, well, we have 2 car payments. Well, why do you have 2 car payments? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, one, get rid of the one car and get something you can just drive and
Yeah.
get that money back in there and start to pay off this debt. And if you can help someone do that, they're going to stick with you forever because you showed
Yeah.
them the path to
Yeah.
be better. And
Yeah.
so, it really boils down to people, making
Yeah. I
them
love that.
happy, man.
Yeah.
Like, just
Man.
trying to help them.
Yeah. Peter, thanks again for being on the show. That was, I think
Yeah,
that was
man. Thanks
probably
for the
even the best
opportunity.
takeaway. Yeah,
Wonderful.
this was really good. A lot of great information. And for the listeners out there, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing here. We're helping the next generation of CEOs and leaders be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.